Futsal community, the Dr. Dakar here. Welcome to your Futsal Australia podcast number 30. Every podcast will bring a special guest, someone from the Australian Futsal community who has impacted the futsal in a positive way. And today we have another very special guest, head coach of Hakoah Futsal Club, one of the most traditional clubs in Australia. And most recently, a dad of a futsal rules, Steve Tzanakes. Did I say your name correctly?
You got close. Tzanakes.
Tzanakes. Okay.
Yep.
I'll try my best. Welcome to the podcast, and it's great to have you here.
Thanks, Andre. Nice to be on, and yeah, thanks for having us on.
No, it's great. We have so many topics we're going to be chatting about. Steve just came back not just came back. A few months ago, he took Hakoah Futsal Club to the Copa Mundo de Futsal Youth, which was hosting in Paranaguá in Brazil. Was a good experience. So we're going to be hearing about this experience and also about Emmanuel Tzanakes, who just debuted for the Futsal Rules. Steve, for yourself as a dad, how was watching your son debuting for the national team?
Yeah, no, it's actually, it's pretty special. It's like, you feel really proud. It's great feeling. I just didn't actually debut this time because he actually debuted
He didn't?
in the
Okay.
last time in Thailand.
Yes, apologies. He actually played at the AFF, correctly. Correct.
Yeah, but as a parent, it's very very proud feeling to see your son, like especially when you hear the national anthem and they're lined up, because we normally see that on TV and you're just seeing everyone else and they're representing us, but then to see your own boy there, it's a very nice feeling.
And it was in home soil, was in Sydney. How was the atmosphere at the stadium there for you that you were there during those 3 games?
Yeah, very good, because you also all the futsal people are out and you're amongst everyone and like all the familiar faces. And that first game at Heffron Park, which is like the official opening of the centre, and that's actually across the road from our house, so that's in our backyard.
Really?
Virtually. I mean, I've grown up playing in Heffron Park my whole life, and see like a national team playing there was it's amazing.
Are you going to be holding any running any futsal programs at the venue since it's so close to you?
Where it's going to be our home venue for Hakoah this year.
Really?
So we'll be playing out of this centre, which is great because it's the newest one, and great state of the art facility, and everything in there is just amazing. So it's great that futsal gets their hands on one of the new venues, because I'm not sure how it is in Victoria and the rest of the country, but it's always a challenge finding courts and court space and good quality centres, which we've managed to do. Credit to Daniel from our club president.
Daniel Sharp. Hakoah will be playing at that venue. What's the venue called again?
Heffron Centre.
Heffron Centre.
It's
great for Hakoah.
Yeah, it's amazing. That centre, I think it was initially built with South Sydney Rabbitohs rugby league team as their home training base. They got their training pitch behind there, but there's just so much in there. It's not just a court. There's gymnasium, there's meeting rooms, like great dressing rooms, all sorts of things in there. It's like, it really is a good place.
And Steve, was the first time that futsal was played in Australia since 2019. So it's been nearly 4 years since the last time. What are your views on those 3 friendly games?
I mean, I think like on a coaching perspective or for the team perspective, I think it's important to get these games, and like they need to get as many as they can, because like anyone that watched the games, you saw game by game they would get better and a little bit more cohesive, and like they just need more games, don't they? I mean, if they're playing 3 or 4 games a year, it's probably not enough, but can we increase the program, or can they get a program where they're able to get together a lot more regularly and just play more games together, and rather than just coming in and out of hibernation? I mean, I think that's the key there. You saw it just within 3 games how much better they got. How much better can they get? With 15 games in a year, 20 games.
They did get better. We could notice that. First game was very messy. Combinations were not 100% right, and even the combinations were better for the second, for the third game. The players got better themselves. Everything was better, wasn't it? We're going to be talking later about more about the futsal rules, but just before we start getting too much into futsal, who are you, Steve, outside of the futsal scenario?
Okay. So my well, for the last 5 years anyway, like my life pretty much revolves around football and futsal. So I'm a full-time coach. I
Hmm.
work at Sydney Grammar School as one of the coaching staff there with football, and then Hillside Park Wanderers, technical director at one of the big local clubs in Sydney, and then football on the weekends. Currently with Dunbar Rovers in NPL, and then we've got the commitments with Hakoah Futsal as well. That's turned into a year-round thing as well now with the introduction of the Winter League.
Hmm.
Personally, family man with 2 kids, and whole world revolves around the round ball pretty much.
And both of your kids played, don't they?
Yeah, both play, both at Hakoah Futsal, both playing outdoor. They both play. They both love it.
And Steve, talk a bit of your background. How'd you, what was your background before you got into futsal, and how'd you get involved in futsal?
Yeah, so futsal, other than playing it socially when I was younger, um, just I think when the kids were like 9 or 10 years old, and then we just someone said, "Come, bring your kids down to trial. Bring them down to Mascot Vipers." At the time,
Hmm.
um, a friend of mine, Nick Hanna, was the men's coach, and he said, bring your boys down." And it all happened like on a whim and in a rush, and didn't really know about it. Didn't know it existed like at a rep level. And then the rest is history. Like I got involved pretty quickly after that. Got involved in coaching, and kids started playing and loved the game. And like you don't realize how good it is until you're playing, until you're involved in it. It's like so much fun, and it's what keeps everyone in the game, I think.
Yeah, it does. And look back at your coaching history, and how do you think your coaching has improved over the years?
Um, I think I think a lot is simplified as like the longer I coach, you realize, with every year of experience, you realize there's better ways and simpler ways of doing things. It's not just about putting 5,000 cones down and making it look pretty. There needs to be actually substance to what you're doing. Um, like you can get out anywhere on any given week and go out to anyone's training session, and some training sessions might be really organized. They look really good, and um, you know, efficient. Everything's running very well, but how much are they actually learning? So, as you learn to simplify things. Just make them effective as possible. And I think that's the greatest take.
It's interesting what you're saying because if I think about it, back 10 years ago, I used to use a lot of equipment to coach, and now I just use a couple of chairs really just to have a
Yeah,
couple, it could have been chairs, it could have been anything, just a couple of things to put. It's like the puzzles come together in your mind, don't they?
yeah. I've seen your sessions with the chairs, and it makes me laugh because I'm the same. I pull those chairs out sometimes as well. They're good dummies to use. I think at
Yeah,
times.
they might be not the safest and they might not be the right thing to do, but really they're a little bit bigger than cones, and I think it just makes sense
That's
to
right.
have a visual
Yeah,
idea that they could be
yeah.
defenders.
That's right. That's right. I agree.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, you
yeah. I
mentioned
was.
Nick. So was Nick some of the influence you to get into futsal or into coaching, or was there
Um,
someone else that influenced you to get into coaching specifically?
um, Nick influenced to get into futsal. Then, like I'd coach the boys, like my boys, like under sixes, under sevens, like in the local football and stuff. But really, in elite coaching and stuff, it all pretty much started through futsal. So there was opportunity there to coach at Mascot Vipers when the boys were young, and started coaching there a little bit and enjoyed it. Then the next year, just started coaching an older age group. Then, you know, just started getting things and doing well. Had good players there. Like it was a good environment at the time. Um, so that's how that sort of happened. Then,
Steve, how
yeah,
do you find coaching your own kids?
um, I don't always coach my own kids. I try normally like to
Hmm.
coach around them or like an age group where they're not playing in. But it can be a challenge sometimes, and I feel like maybe it's all right for me. Sometimes I feel possibly it's harder on the kids than it is on the coach because like maybe they can't be themselves around their friends and things, and they got their
Hmm.
dad coaching them, so maybe they got to hold back, or maybe sometimes they want to muck around or do things, and it's a bit hard with your dad sort of breathing
And
down your
and
neck or
and
being around there.
like when kids get home and they talk bad about their coach to their parents, have you had a situation that they disagree with what you did and you guys had a big argument at home?
Not really, but they probably do it behind my back. They're probably talking to each other about me when I can't hear them, because
Mhm.
otherwise they don't get fed. They have to go find their own food after.
So they're both still living at home.
Yeah, both living at home. Yeah, one's
Yeah, so
21 and one's nearly 20. Yeah.
so it's getting time for them to find their own home and start talking really
Andre,
outside home.
Andre, when you got a 20 and a 21-year-old Greeks, when they got good Greek cooking at home, then they rush to leave.
Especially nowadays with the finance situation the way it is, the
Yeah,
rental crisis and all these things, they're gonna stay there
yeah,
forever.
that's right.
Steve, what have been some of the highlights of your coaching career until this Copa Mundo de Futsal, of this year, 2023?
Yeah. In terms of highlights, probably the biggest highlight would have been maybe 5 or 6 years ago when I was awarded Coach of the Year in my MPL, which was actually like really, really prestigious award, because that one coach in the whole state will get awarded, like amongst all the age groups.
Mhm.
That was actually a really proud moment. In terms of achievements, had a lot of success at Mascot. So I was coaching at Mascot for maybe, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years before I moved across to Hakoah. And we had a lot of success. A lot of talented kids there, like really, really talented. Like you see now, some of them, playing highest level in football. Daniel Lasagna was there before. I mean, I wasn't coaching him, but he was there at the time. But they really attracted really high quality players.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so yeah, that my experience there was great. Um,
Steve, sorry to cut you there. For people from the other states to understand a bit better how the New South Wales Premier League work, uh,
yes,
do the best soccer players come to play in the futsal season, or just some choose to play, some don't? And how is the trialing system for these clubs usually?
yeah. So it's the same pool of players that will play futsal that play outdoor as well. Um, the the MPL, the futsal, it's supposed to run September till. We used to run September till like mid-February, which was the off
Mhm.
season of outdoor. But now outdoor's extended. Unfortunately, futsal has shrunk to September to December. You have your Christmas break, come back for the nationals, and then back into outdoor, which has created a challenge. But the Premier League in futsal is under 12s all the way up to men's, boys and girls side. So 12s, 14s, 16s, 19s are men's in
Mhm.
boys, and the girls would be 13s, 15s, 17s are women's. So and they play all on the same day, one after another, starting with the youngest all the way to the top. Um, they've got the academy teams as well. There's actually a really good. The structure is really good. I just feel maybe
What would you change
this.
from the Premier League?
What I would change is I would probably drop the under 12 boys or the 12 girls and play them on a Sunday in a separate academy competition. And I would
Mhm.
introduce an under 13 boys, because what you have now is, and because there's club championship and promotion or relegation, you've got clubs that, like rightly or wrongly, they're trying to survive. So every year they're just trying to find the best players they can find that will get them the results, so they don't get relegated. But if you can, you get a player at 11 years old in your academy. It might be his first taste of futsal. You retain him in the under 12s. He plays, has a good year,
Mhm.
um, and then the next year he has to go trial for under 14s. Then you're coming up against and trialing with half of the kids that probably got beards and like they're physically developed, and it's really
Yeah, it
hard. And
makes a
then
big difference, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, and like the most apparent was one of the strongest sides I ever coached in under 12s. Got players playing for Australia in outdoor now, but like ultra talented, like the best team. And the next year in the 14s, you could only take like maybe two of them or three of them, and you lose them after. If you don't take them in 13, or if you don't find somewhere to house them or have a competition,
Mhm.
you got a kid at 11, keep them at 12. If you've got them playing 13s, then
And you
they
can't
play
have more than one.
14s.
You couldn't have a reserve team, for example, or
No,
a young
no.
team.
So
Yeah, only one team per.
yeah, at Hakoah, we created an under-13s team when we entered them into a separate competition, but trained them with the 14s. But really, they need their own competition because the players are all coming back and they want to play, and you end up losing players to the game
So
because
it's
they
getting to
drop
the
out.
point that football instructors need to have every year, right? Every year,
Yeah,
perhaps
yeah,
odd numbers on Saturday, even numbers on Sunday. I'm just whatever.
possibly. But especially at 13, you need to keep them because that's when the puberty and the kids are growing, and like the little ones that are talented, they just can't compete physically. So maybe there's the argument, all right, don't have a 15, so 14s to 16s. At that point, you should be good enough to make a jump, and if you're not, you maybe look at a different division or something. But under 13s, I think we're just missing it there.
Steve, the perception that we have when we look at New South Wales is that the futsal players, they're all soccer players at the same time, so they do both. Is there a club that, like we see Apia now, both in futsal and in soccer, is there interchange between the programs that they help each other, or not really, or they're just separate teams? And
yeah, it is pretty much separate. I think the way I see it, and it's from the outside more so, Dural Warriors seem to have a lot of their players at Hills United, which is a good. They're playing in the second tier in outdoor, but looking like getting promoted also. So they'll be a top tier side in outdoor. But I don't think there's anything official, but I think there's just a good relationship between those clubs, and it's probably just built around that. The Dural players are playing there.
So they stay together when they play soccer, then when they stay together when they play futsal.
Yeah.
Is that the club that Basda and Wade play for, or no?
That's right. Yes.
So they both play for that club.
Yeah, and others as well, as well from there.
Steve, go for it.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah, moving over now to the Copa Mundo Futsal. Just explain to people how you guys got involved. So I was contacting and asking to find the best clubs in Australia to play in the youth boys and in the women's for 2023. We made the decision that the strongest club in Australia in the youth was a New South Wales club, was New South Wales Youth, which you guys won national, so the only official tournament for youth. And we decided to, since you were the coach, to give an invitation to you, and you're part of Hakoah. Hakoah went to play as the youth club representing Australia. We only gave you, I think, I don't know if I remember correctly, 3 or 4 weeks, or even less than that. What was the time frame that you guys had to organize your team?
It was short. It was like, it was probably 4 or 5 weeks. It was not longer than 5 weeks. Like still to this day, I don't understand how we made it come together so well.
It was 4 or 5 weeks, the notice that we were given, and then we passed it on that to you guys. Can you just tell me how you managed to get such a strong team together in such a short time frame?
That's a good question. I remember when I first spoke to you and you said, do you think you could get your nationals team together for it? And I remember saying to you, they're a good side. We might get some of them, but they were an under 19s team and the competition's under 23. So there are better players available.
Under 21s with 2 under 23s.
Oh, sorry, under 21s with 2 23s. That's right. Just put the feelers out. Spoke to guys in Perth, guys in Queensland. Spoke to yourself. Put the feelers out. I think we advertised an open trial as well for anyone that was interested to come, just to allow the opportunity for players to come. We knew we could probably build a decent side just with Hakoah players, but we thought it's probably good to give the opportunity as well if there's players from outside of the state that would like the opportunity and would like to come together, and it would strengthen the squad and also give opportunity as well that way without excluding people.
We appreciate you for doing that, but really, you guys didn't have to we didn't have to open any spots for any other states or clubs, because it was Hakoah was selected to go to the tournament. So I appreciate you for doing that. Is there any players that you wish were available and able to come with you guys and couldn't come?
I mean, there were players that, for whatever, like Ethan DeMello, like good Futsal was going to come, but he'd already planned a trip to Europe, and he's on the Greek islands at the moment. Probably be like 3 or 4 Greek birds hanging off him. So can't really blame him for not switching his plans. But that's probably something with a little bit more notice could have could have been adjusted. But yeah, I mean, you always could have a better player or two. But at the end of the day, we had a good team. We got a few players from outside as well, and they all made a good impact as well. I mean, Adam Paulson from New Zealand
Mhm.
international, came in. We had two boys from Perth, Benji and Mikhail and Connor Cruz. Great kids and like good impact on the team and great yeah, just great people. Then we had a couple of boys from we had our nationals keeper, one of them. He was under 19s, but from Mount of Magic here in Sydney.
Mhm.
And we had Sasha from Vipers. Yeah, it was mainly Hakoah, but then yeah, with a sprinkling of some other players. Hamish from Italy, who was playing in Italy, was going to come, and then end up, I think his plans or something rather came up, and he wasn't able to make it in the end. I think logistically it's probably a bit challenging at the time. I think the
Yeah, that was a
problem was
big
just
loss because they
yeah,
both he plays together with Adam at the New Zealand with
yeah,
the New Zealand national team.
yeah. We had a couple of Brazilians as well in our squad, and how that came about was Daniel Sharp had brought out an under 19 a few years ago to play with us from Brazil, and he played the season in our under 19s team. So we
Mhm.
thought we'd extend the invitation to him, and he was available, and also the other Brazilian, which was his brother, it was his younger brother who came and played as well. So that rounded out the squad. We had actually quite a reasonable squad, and you know, to be honest, when it all came together at the start, and we're looking at who all the other teams are in the tournament, and we're thinking, geez, I was actually quite fearful that we're going to go there and we're going to concede maybe 20 goals a game. We're coming up against all these professionals, and we're just
Mhm.
the Aussies that play futsal part time. We might be talented, but we're in the middle of an outdoor season. Perth boys haven't played futsal since the nationals, and that's probably the case for a lot of them. Um, yeah, so that was the challenge and maybe the fear, I guess. But boys did boys did well given the circumstances, and like they did so well. I take my hat off to them. Great
Can you tell
attitude.
us, Steve, how was the preparation that you were able to organize in those
Yeah,
leading up to the tournament?
yeah. So initially, I was hoping to get everyone to meet in Sydney. Then we could have a couple of days prepare here, and then head over there and play the tournament. Um, Logistically, it worked out better for us to actually just meet in Brazil. Then we had a week to prepare as a team there. So
A week.
a week, yeah, or 6 days, or yeah, it was close to a week. So we, um, the Perth boys, the two went on their own. They got their time. Adam from New Zealand made his way there. Then the rest of us from Sydney, we all met in Sydney, went together. Supposed to be 20 hours journey. Our first flight, I don't know if you heard, our first flight is delayed 6 hours.
Mm.
So, which means we're missing our connecting flight into Curitiba, which is the main city near where we're playing. Now, from Chile to Curitiba, there's 4 direct flights a week. So I'm thinking, while we're still in Sydney, I'm thinking, what are we going to do? We're gonna be stuffed. All our preparation out the window. We've prepared trial games, training and all that. We're going to lose all our time because we're going to get in like 2 or 3 days late. But we had help and a couple of favors from people close to us that managed to pull strings. And instead of arriving in Curitiba on the Tuesday evening, for example, we ended up arriving like on the Wednesday morning before lunchtime. So end up having to overnight in Sao Paulo. It was a nightmare. We arrived Sao Paulo and they didn't organize our accommodation. So we're running from airport to hotel at like 1 in the morning. Kids are hungry. They open the kitchen for us. They prepare something for us. So 2 in the morning,
Mhm.
we're still, we're eating something, go to sleep, have to wake up at 5 a.m. because we got like a 7 a.m. flight or something early. Then you got a couple of our boys that sleeping in. So we're smashing their door down, trying to wake them up and get them out. Otherwise, we're going to miss the bus at the airport. And yeah, it was good experience. But yeah, it didn't start off well. But yeah, we arrive in Curitiba. Everything gets there. We're smooth. Um, and then it hits us. So we turn up, and there's media there waiting for us. They're taking our photos, taking video, and boys, all of a sudden, you think, shit,
They
where are we?
realize that things go serious now.
Things are serious, yeah. Mate, it's we're not in Australia where football or futsal is insignificant. Now we're in Brazil. Now there's people interested now. You everything you do, people are going to be looking at you. So we arrived there probably about midday. An hour and a half or an hour 40 bus ride into Paranaguá, which was the town we were staying in and where the tournament was to be held. I think we had a quick lunch, just relaxed, relax a little bit, and we had a training session that evening. Looked, it was okay. It was actually good for the considering the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had our first hit out the day after.
And how were those friendly games before the tournament?
They're actually very good, actually, to be honest. I think like I spoke about the fear earlier on. So we're turning up to play against Paraná Club in our first friendly, and they've got a big squad there. They had a couple of senior players, but they also had a lot of young players, like really young. So they're probably also thinking about it. They're probably not knowing what to expect with us, and they're thinking maybe if it's maybe if we're not able to compete, they're going to throw the young boys out there and give us a run. But to be honest, we never saw them on the court. So they had their senior players playing. Good hit out. Good hit out. That first match, we ended up losing. I think we were ahead for 2 or 3 times in that match, but we ended up losing in the last 5 or 6 minutes or 10 minutes when they decided to go power play. And the way they played power play was really interesting, and the way they were rotating and moving within that, we couldn't deal with it, and they ended up beating
How
us
did
in
they
that.
play power play?
Oh, I've spoke to the coach, and I asked him after the match as well to explain it to him, and he explained it all. But it's just the detail. Like we play it a lot simpler than what they do, but they will play depending on if they got a left foot shooter on the one side of the court. Depending if he's a left or right footer, they'll rotate different ways. There's a lot of detail to it, but they're it's actually quite interesting. It's very hard to deal with. But yeah, it was that was hard. But yeah, for them, it's not only moving to this position or if this happens or that happens. It's also if you got left footer on the right side of you, you passing the ball or he goes there, they're going to make a certain movement because for them it's about getting themselves in a position where they can shoot effectively, which is very interesting.
Yeah, all these details are things that they come naturally if you train 5 times a week like they do, don't they?
Absolutely. If you have time, if we're only training twice a week, how much can you really do? I mean, Steve Knight with Inner West Magic, who's coached the team for many years, has opportunity to develop different systems and develop team in different ways. But that's because you can build year by year. Whereas, for most part, it's very hard to do that.
Yeah, it does take time, these things. Can you run us through the games of the tournament, how you guys went each game?
Yeah. Oh, in the tournament? The tournament, first game was against the Colombians, and I went and saw them train the day before.
Atlas, they call
Atlas,
a big club in Colombia.
Yeah, big club. I feel, to be honest, out of the 4 games, so we had the Colombians, Argentinians, Paraguayans, and the Brazilians. If we leave the Brazilians aside, the other 3 teams, we more than competed against them. I think the differences are probably technically, I mean, all South Americans are known for like their technical qualities, and they're all really good. But maybe a little bit of depth, maybe just the fact that they're full-time futsal players and they're training every day, and I think fitness we're okay, speed we're okay, ability is okay. I think our talent is definitely good. It's definitely good, but I think we just lack a little bit. We're just the cohesiveness. When you saw the Futsaroos after their 3rd game, how much better they were than the first game. I mean, we're in a similar situation as well. When the Atlas game comes up, we've played, I think, three friendlies at that point. But some of those guys never met each other before, so we were getting better as well, game by game. The Alice game comes up, and all of a sudden, their friendlies, whatever they were, and as serious as they got, heated. One of them got really heated as well. As much as that happened, once a tournament starts, just completely different kettle of
It's
fish.
interesting what it says. There's a thing about that trainings in matches you can't replicate that same
No,
feeling, can you?
no, not at all. No, it's
And
different. I mean,
on
no.
the same note, Steve, I was talking to Marvin Eakins, the national coach of New Zealand. He was saying that they could play a club team as a practice match, but the feeling of playing an international match, you can't replicate either. So these emotions play with the game, with the players, don't they?
That's right, because like the game is not only played with your feet. I mean, what's happening inside not only inside your head, but also what's happening inside your heart. When you're wearing a national team jersey, and all of a sudden you're representing your club or your family, you're representing your country. So like that. Like I don't know, I've never done that, but I mean, for players that have, I mean, you must stir up emotions that like can't explain, I guess. Yeah, and then how do they deal with that?
Yeah. So how'd you guys go against Atlas?
So Atlas, we ended up losing 3-1, but well in the game for most of it. I felt for look, I felt we competed really well. Our preparation in our friendly games, I think, we're really focused on the defense because we didn't really have time to do much else, but really focused on how we defended. I felt that was okay. But yeah, I think just quality in the end, just in the little minor details, I think made the difference. But same with the other ones as well. Second game, we come up against Joinville, massive club, and you feel it. That one we went in with a plan. Unfortunately, after a couple of minutes, we're way behind and game's essentially over. But they're just on another level. They're good.
Yeah, they were the previous year's runners up, and
Yeah,
this year's runners up
and this year as
once
well.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel with these clubs as well. And speaking to the coaches and the technical staff there, and I felt that we competed with them in patches, and he agreed. But the thing is, these guys have the ability to just do it all game. And I think even if we step it up, to be honest, they're going to find another gear as well, aren't they? They're just too good.
Mm-hmm. And you were able to play against clubs from different countries, like Colombia, Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina. Did you notice any difference on the style that each country plays?
Yes and no. We also played the Americans and Canadians in friendlies as well. So we did notice differences. Also, notice differences between the Brazilian teams. So Paraná, Rio Branco, we played in friendlies. Played more like a little bit more individual, like dribbling a little bit more. Joinville, to me, seemed more as a European style, more passing game. Atlas, watching them at training, and it was all about 1v1s and a lot of dribbling. But then I didn't feel that they took that into the game. I'd say, to be honest, most of the South American teams very similar style. I think the game seems to be evolving in one direction, whereas the Brazilians still have their their way of playing. But I'd use Joinville as probably as an exception to that from what I saw. Rio Branco, watching their home games as well. They play a lot on emotion as well. But with that said, they got a big home crowd behind them. They were full house every one of their games. Yeah, so I think that counts for a lot as well. I mean, we beat them in a friendly match. We beat them in a friendly, but then, and it was very, very similar side to what they had in the actual tournament. But I mean, put five. I don't know how much the capacity of that stadium was, but it was full house. Put that behind that team, they just they become so much better.
Yeah, it was really good to watch Rio Branco, especially that game Rio Branco against Crona at Joinville. That was a full stadium against the previous year's runners up. It was awesome. It was just good to see. What about the other games? You had a big loss against Joinville, but was expected really to have a loss? and the other 2 games of the group stage.
Yeah, so Joinville, in hindsight, if we take a more conservative approach defensively, maybe the scoreline is not so heavy. But that said, spoke to the boys before the game, and their heart was they wanted to, give it all, go in their faces, and come up, mate, out of that. The next game was the Argentinians. We sat in a little bit, so we played a little bit more compact defensively, and they struggled to break us down. And we just kept picking them off, and we kept creating the chances on the break. But we just it was a story of our tournament where and it's probably because they're just rusty and haven't played enough futsal, but just missing chances that we probably wouldn't miss, if it was later in the year or if it was during our futsal season, for a little bit more composed. So the Argentinians end up beating us 3-1 as well, but we got a lot of praise from like Ari Santos and other like legends who watched that game and told us we did really well in that match. And so I mean, they're looking beyond the result, and our performance, I guess, in that game probably warranted something a little bit more.
Yeah. It's interesting. We had a chat up after that game of Corona, and I mentioned to you that the more pressing game, it could have gone. It could go against you guys, and it did go against you guys. And then the following game, you guys sat back a bit more, and it was a close score against the Argentinian team. They were not as good as Corona, but they were still a good team, a big club as well. And 3-1. Going back to the futsal rules, we see the futsal rules at the moment they're pressing the ball, they're applying pressure on the ball the whole time. Going to AFC, what approach would you take as a coach against some big clubs like Japan?
As a national team, I think, I think like understanding Miles's principles and the way he likes his teams to defend. I think he's going to vary between playing a bit higher up the court and a bit deeper, and I think a lot of it probably has to do with who he's got on the court at the time and which players the other team has. But I think I don't think playing one set way is the way he does things or he likes to do things, and I think a lot of it is dictated by the match and what's going on at the time. The game may dictate that you got to press or you got to play higher up, and there's opportunities to win the ball. And maybe they have, I don't know, like it could be any circumstances that would dictate, but I'm sure they'll do all their research and they'll come up with the right plans. I mean, he not only Miles, but you got Bruno Canavan, you got Peter Spathis there, you got Brett Hewitt there. Got like some smart people there. They really get it. So
they'll be
I'm sure
prepared
that
for everything.
yeah, they'll be prepared. So I mean, they'll come up with what's right, and I mean,
And
they'll be
who'd you
okay.
guys have in that last game of the tournament?
Last game we had the the Paraguayans, Olympico, it was Olympia,
I think it's Olympia, but I'm not.
Olympia,
I'm not 100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was the game that we boys came off the court feeling they should have won. We ended up losing that one 4-1, but until that point, we missed. We just watched it the other day and can't believe how many chances we missed. Like so many chances in front of the goal. But it's not from lack of quality. That's just from lack of games and just not playing, not in the rhythm. Those balls normally come across. They're in the goal. But yeah, we missed so many chances. Feel like even though again, South Americans technically good, we felt we should have won. Really should have won that game. First game as well. Atlas felt like we should have won that. Team had a lot of belief in them. A lot of self-belief, which was good.
Yeah, it's still another good score. All the scores were really good, and lessons to bring it back from home. What would be the most memorable moment of the tournament on the court for you, in your opinion?
On the court, that's a good question. That's actually a very hard one to answer. Like the whole experience was great, but most memorable moment on the court.
Or like a moment that you felt proud of the team, really.
Yeah, it's actually very, very hard, honestly, Andre, to be able to answer that question because we were just so competitive. Like the proud moments was like even coming off the field, even after a loss, but like just watching how devastated they are when they've lost a game that they're expected to lose heavily, but feeling
Mhm.
they should have won, and like justifiably as well. Even the Joinville game, you're losing 10-1, but until the end of the game, no one's given up. Everyone's trying. These kids' characters, like amazing. Like just don't give up. They won't give anything, and like it's got I think a lot to do with the Australian spirit. It's like Australian would never take a backward step. They would never give up. Doesn't matter who you're up against. Like we've seen it so many times in the history of Australian sport, like the underdog story, right? And like we played it well. Just results didn't reflect, I think, what they deserved.
Mhm. Well, and what do you feel that the team you guys faced some? What were the challenges that you guys faced? As in the you wish you guys were able to match with them.
Yeah, well, maybe I think look, technical ability, like technically, like you look at even their keepers, as good as any of their players, right? They're good receiving and passing with both feet. They're
Mhm.
hitting 35-meter balls. They're going to drop it exactly where they want. So you're competing against that. But I mean, yeah, I mean, what they need is the ability to be able to play all year round in a good competition. They need exposure. Maybe we need to think about, is there a way to be able to host a tournament in Australia and invite clubs out here for their preparation or for their preseason?
For players to play the whole year round, do you think it will be possible to still have the soccer players playing futsal, or there'll be a point that they'll have to choose between one of the two?
At some point, they have to choose, but at the moment, there's no choice, Andre. Like, you can have players that would probably jump at futsal, but we need to have the product for them. Otherwise, what are they doing? They can
Hmm.
play outdoor all year round. You got to also remember these kids grow up with a dream of becoming outdoor professionals. They watch Neymar and Zidane and Messi, or like
Hmm.
they're watching these guys, and they're the players they're idolizing, and they're the ones that they want to. They're watching the Premier League, and this is what they want to become. And then they discover futsal. They see it's good for them. They love it. They don't realize how much fun they can have playing it. They want to keep playing, but then all of a sudden they get to an age, and then like in Sydney, like how do you tell someone come and play futsal? There's no money or there's nothing there for you, but give up playing at your outdoor club and give up $1,500 or $2,000 a week. I mean,
Yeah, at the end of the day, it all comes down to money, doesn't it?
yeah,
Um, in Victoria here, we have 4 or 5 clubs that they're paying the players, and these players they're choosing to stay at futsal instead of going to outdoor now.
yeah. So I mean, why can't we do that in the rest of the country? And then, I mean, there's obviously serious futsal clubs throughout the country. Like, why can't we get a national league to work?
Hmm.
I mean,
Well,
all the
hopefully this
kids,
year with the F League, if F League goes ahead, they'll happen one day.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it has to start somewhere, even if it's I mean, they've got to get the foundations in this year, because if they don't get the foundations in this year, we have to get the foundations in next year, which just means we're losing an extra year and possibly an extra crop of players. But there needs to be something there for the players. A lot of good players would play futsal all year round. They would do it, but we need the product there for them.
Yeah, when just during COVID, it's still when we started the Futsal in Australia podcast, episode number 2 or 3, we had the heads of each state on a podcast, and the plan was to start an F League. I think it was last year or the year before. So it still hasn't happened, and the pressure is that the community wants a national league. They gotta provide us. They have to provide us, and I'm sure if they provide us, they'll get our support. I'll be the first one to
Yeah,
support and encourage them and promote the national league and make it as viable as possible. Uh, Steve, you mentioned that the goalkeepers are really good with their feet,
yes.
and this tournament was a reflection of what's to come. Was Barcelona dominated the tournament, Joinville. What can you see? What can you predict of what futsal look like in 5 years when all these players become senior players? Well, they're already
Oh,
senior
I
players,
mean,
but when they become the
yeah.
main players of the senior teams.
I think we're already seeing the game evolving, but like it's so intense now and so fast, and like um using the keeper a lot more to get out and break presses. I noticed a lot. and that's and yeah, and watching different clubs or different clubs and watching their ways of breaking the press and using the keeper to get out. But with that, you need a keeper competent and comfortable on the ball. That's a good lesson to get out of this tournament as well as others. But game is getting very dynamic. A lot more high press. But then you see Barcelona and a lot of these teams, they press them right in the corners. And they don't kick the ball out. They find their ways out. But they're so comfortable on the ball and their movement is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's got to a point that the goalkeepers are so good with their feet that soon FIFA will have to change the rules to not allow them to pass to the goalkeeper because you can't press those teams anymore. You press them, they use the goalkeeper, they break the pressure, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think you need to. I don't think you necessarily need to change the rules for that. I think we just need to solve the problem. Well, I mean, we tried a couple of ways to solve it, and we were okay at it at times, and other times we weren't. But I think
But
we
there's coaches that have already started talking about this issue of this rule now. That even at the top level, that you open the goalkeeper, you put the pivot on that side, the goalkeeper, you play the goalkeeper pivot, and you break the pressure. There's no other way.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they change the rules for that. I think there's I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's
it's been
as a
going for a
coach,
while. Yeah.
yeah, as a coach, I just look at it as a problem you need to solve. I think,
Mhm.
but yeah, if they change the rules because it destroys the game, I don't think it's destroying the game or anything. I think the game's good as a
At the
result
moment,
of
it's
it.
exciting for sure.
Yeah,
Steve, for yourself as a coach, what did you learn that you're able now to bring back to Australia and apply here in Australia?
yeah, like watching a lot of those coaches, um, and then even like listening to their timeouts and like translating it and listening. There's like we're not. I don't honestly believe we're that far behind in Australia. I think look, the players, the environment, and all that helps, but we're not. I don't think we're that far behind. I mean, learning um, under, for example, Miles Downey's principles and like his view of the game and his perception of it. It's in line with the modern game. So we've got the ability here to learn, and I mean, through the courses and through the states, like the information gets passed down to all the coaches. Like we're on the right track in Australia. Um, what I did do was I would speak to a lot of the coaches after matches. The one good thing was that coaches were really open and willing to share their information. So there was opportunities there to learn and um, learn from that. I think I forgot what I was going to say then. Paranar game, for example, spoke to their coach, exchanged information, exchanged our details, but really explained his power play, and we videoed it, so we got that information.
Mhm.
So, maybe we start applying some of that into our game, and then just bring our game up to a high level. But yeah, I think we really until we're playing all year round at a good level, we're really going to be limited with how far we can take the
Yeah.
game.
Um, I'm still waiting on Myers. So like last year we invited him to come on the podcast. He said that he'll talk to us eventually. You mentioned his principles, and a lot of people
Yeah.
mention that he's got good principles. Uh, what would be a couple principles that Myers has that you can share with the community?
Um, well, in terms of his defensive principles, I would say, like balance like 4v4, just like you could. It's a man for man system with coverage and then coverage for coverage. Just on that point, quickly, what we did notice in Brazil, and it just reminded me, was you think you're in a 1v1 and you beat your play, you could have a chance to score a goal. All of a sudden, that covering defender comes across like a rocket to clear that ball out. And then if you can negotiate that opponent, their coverage for their coverage is also there quick. So things have to be quick. And these guys are so organized and they're so well drilled in the way they defend. It is hard. It's difficult.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is a culture in Brazil to have always coverage. Probably because the players are so good at 1v1s that they expect
yeah,
you to get dribble at some stage.
yeah. So yeah, back to Miles. Yeah, so his defensive principles in counterattack, for example, you know, 2 or 3 things or 4 things, and then you learn those. And beauty of it is that so easy to learn. It's simple. It's like, when you got a computer or you got a Android device, then you get an Apple Mac or an Apple, and so it just works. It's simple, and you go, oh, geez, that makes sense.
Hmm.
Or when we do something because we've been told that's how it's done, and never really understood why you did it. With Miles, you just understand it. Oh, geez, that makes sense. All of a sudden, the game starts getting a lot less complex in your head, and it's easier to coach. The kids that really learn and understand. And those principles, I think, not only apply to futsal, they apply to football, but also apply to basketball and any invasion game.
Good. And I must say that Miles, he every time you speak to him, he mentions also that he learned lots from Steven Knights. So I just want to
Yeah.
leave out there that yeah, Steven Knights had a lot of input into what Miles is today. Uh, Steve, what do you think that the players took from this experience of going to Brazil?
Like for these kids, like that experience, like a lot of players in Australia will never get the opportunity to play in like such a tournament. Like, when kids are growing up, there's always the overseas tours where you go to Barcelona or you go to Spain or Madrid and all that. But really, they're just glorified holidays. Not really, it's nothing serious. They think it's
Hmm.
serious. It's a good experience. But we turned up, like, we got like ran into a brick wall. We just turned up to this tournament that everyone was so serious. Like, we're sharing the hotel with Barcelona. They got their analysts till like 3 or 4 in the morning every night, doing their analysis, preparing for the next game. And yeah, then it's got the Aussies over there on the other side, with like myself and Nick Rathjen, who came as an assistant. We're doing our discussion. We're thinking, look at the resources and the difference and all that. But for the players, I think I hope what I hope they took from this is that if they're serious about futsal, that there's something there for them, and they should have enough belief in themselves after what they experience that they can compete. But with like spending, if you can get yourself in an environment where you can play futsal all year round or whatever, there's no reason why they can't be, on the same stage, on the same court as these guys.
Hmm.
I spoke to a couple of clubs also in Brazil and trying to open some doors to, to create opportunities for players, maybe to go spend a few months there to learn. Maybe, we can send players and they can send players here, do an exchange, even for the coaches as well. But if we can open some doors like that, I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah, these are things that are possible, and we have the context to do. So
Yeah,
yeah, if anyone wants to send players to stay at clubs, we know that Minas is keen having players, Magnus. Yeah, there's a lot of clubs
yeah,
there. Even Joinville, they want to do these things as
yeah.
well.
John Villy wants to do it. Yeah,
Yeah. A couple last questions, Steve, just before we go. It's we're getting close to the end now. What would you advise would you give to a coach that is planning on to go play a tournament like you guys did?
yeah. So the first thing I would do is if you're organized, like if you got the ability to organize it. But if you're not, make sure the tournament and the preparation, everything's organized properly, because it's hard enough as it is just to coach, but you need to make sure everything's organized. What I did though, because yeah, it was such a big tournament. Like, I spoke to people such as yourself, Miles, Rob Varela, like other people that have been there, been to tournaments. Peter Spathis spoke to a bit as well, actually quite a bit with Peter Spathis as well. So the people that have been there and done that, speak to them, get the information, try to learn as much as you can. So there's, not so much surprises, and you're not overawed with certain things. Otherwise, if we're just going there completely blind, maybe, maybe not such a good experience for everyone. But yeah, for a coach that's going out there for the first time, I'd be just seeking information from experienced people that have done it in the past.
Hmm. And it's important. The Spanish coaches they're famous for having a strong community of coaches in Spain. Hopefully, we're
Yeah,
starting this community here in Australia now. That and with Miles now running the FC courses everywhere in Australia, he's getting the contacts, and hopefully we created this community of coaches that we help each other. And really, we all want to get to the same place. We all want futsal in Australia to grow.
Yeah, I mean, we're all competing with each other on a weekly basis, but ultimately, we're on the same team. We're on the same team at the end of the day. We
Yeah,
had that group, didn't we have that group set up on Facebook that had all the coaches together? And
it's been a bit quiet, but
yeah,
it's not just a matter of Facebook group. It's more like the relationship of the coaches in Australia got to be a relationship to help each other, doesn't it?
yeah. And I think all these ideas are great, but at the end of the day, you need people that are going to drive that. So if there's people that are, prepared to put in that extra work to drive something like that, can only be good because coaches need to get better. We are behind the rest of the world as well as we're doing, but yeah, whoever has information experience needs to share it with everyone else, and we need to come together, just get better as a group. Can only help the
Hmm.
kids.
100%. Just before I let you go, can you share with us your plans for the future? What's coming up for Hakoah and for yourself as a coach?
Yeah, for Hakoah, we just finished our commitments with Winter League last night, so our preparations will start for our regular season, which starts in a couple of months in September. But we're going to start planning. Well, we'll start training from this Tuesday, from tomorrow, our preseason. Hakoah is like probably one of the few clubs that has a program all year round. Men's team is able to train all year round,
Hmm.
and most of the players only play futsal. Got a couple to play outdoor, but yeah, for the most part, it's all futsal players. So yeah, plans for this year is personally is be coaching the men's team and the under-19s. Yeah, we'll start this week, and yeah, big shoes to fill there. Andre stepping in after Miles has stepped down from that role, so that'll be a big challenge personally.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Or Miles would still be involved with Hakoah or not
yeah,
anymore?
absolutely. Yeah, no, he'll still be with Hakoah. He'll still, I would expect, and I assume he'll still be involved with the men's team a little bit or as much as he can. But his kids are involved, like his kids are at Hakoah as well. So I think he's coaching at the club would more so be with the kids and the young ones, but he'll still, I think he'll still play as much of a role as he can. I think with the men's. I mean, that's ultimately that's his team. He's built that over the last few years, and yeah,
Hmm.
that's his baby still. Just looking after it for him.
Yeah, but at the moment he's got a bigger job to look after. That we all want him to be successful and to get
That's
through
right.
the FC group stage.
That's right.
Steve, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We're hoping for a 40-minute podcast, but we got to an hour. That means lots to chat on, and appreciate you coming. And I'm sure the community will appreciate everything that you spoke.
Thanks, Andre. And mate, I've got to say, keep up all the good work because you're one of the guys in this futsal community that's getting everyone together and like connecting everyone, and you're doing a great job with it, mate. And just keep it up.
Thank you for your kind words. Thanks everyone for listening to your Futsal Australia podcast number 30. Together we can make a beautiful game bigger in your country and stay